The guest who never leaves. The clock struck 3 a.m., that dead hour separating the end of the night from the beginning of the day, when the veil between our world and the others is said to be at its thinnest. Yasser moved into apartment 4 on the top floor of an old building in the Sakakini district of Cairo. The building had a dilapidated classical architecture. The ceilings were high, swallowing the light, and the walls were thick, hiding decades of silence behind them. The rent was suspiciously cheap, but Yasser, a writer seeking isolation to finish his struggling novel, didn't care about the details. For the first week, everything was normal, except for a strange chill that inhabited the right corner of the bedroom, regardless of the temperature outside. Yasser would wake up in the middle of the night feeling as though eyes were watching him from that dark corner. Things took a terrifying turn on a stormy night. Yasser was sitting at his desk, writing, the sound of rain violently battering the windows. Suddenly, he heard a faint creaking sound coming from the kitchen. He thought it was the wind, but the sound repeated, a creak, followed by the sound of heavy, barefoot steps. He stopped writing. His blood ran cold. The steps weren't random, they were rhythmic, moving slowly toward his closed bedroom door. He grabbed a baseball bat he kept for protection and approached the door. He swung it open. Nothing. The hallway was completely empty, and the kitchen was drowning in darkness. He returned to his room, trying to convince himself it was a hallucination born of exhaustion. He lay on his bed and closed his eyes. But just as sleep began to creep in, he heard the sound again. This time, it wasn't in the kitchen. The sound was coming from directly under his bed. Breathing, heavy, ragged breathing, as if someone were fighting death right beneath the mattress. Yasser leapt from the bed and stood in the middle of the room, his heart pounding like war drums. He looked at the tall mirror hanging on the wardrobe, and that was when the shock hit him. In the mirror, Yasser wasn't alone. Standing directly behind his reflection was a tall man, face pale as plaster, eyes sewn shut with thick black threads, and mouth gaping in an endless silent scream. The creature had its long hand with broken fingers resting on Yasser's shoulder in the reflection. Yasser spun around quickly to face what was behind him, but the room was empty. He looked back at the mirror. The creature was still there, leaning closer to Yasser's reflection, whispering into its ear. Although the room was silent, Yasser heard the voice echo inside his head with terrifying clarity. "You took my place, and now I will take your body." Yasser tried to flee the room, but the door was jammed shut as if it were a solid wall. The lights began to flicker madly. In the mirror, he saw the creature raise its hand and dig its long nails into Yasser's reflection. At that moment, Yasser felt a searing pain in his real neck. He touched his throat and found warm blood trickling down. The reflection was hurting him in reality. Yasser realized the only way to survive was to destroy the mirror. He grabbed a heavy wooden chair and screamed with all his might, hurling it at glass. Crash! Glass shattered everywhere. Sudden silence fell. The bleeding stopped, and the lights returned to normal. Yasser sat on the floor panting, surrounded by shards of glass. He thought the nightmare was over. He gathered himself, deciding to leave the apartment immediately and never return. He packed his things quickly and ran out of the apartment without looking back. He sprinted down the stairs until he reached the street. He breathed in the cold morning air and felt free. He hailed a taxi and jumped into the back seat. He told the driver in a trembling voice, "Take me to the nearest hotel, please." The driver looked at him through the rearview mirror, smiled a strange smile, and said in a familiar voice, a voice Yasser heard inside his head moments ago, "Do you think you escaped? Look in the mirror, my friend." Yasser looked in horror at the car's rearview mirror. The back seat in the reflection was empty. He had no reflection. Then he looked at his hand. It was paling, slowly turning the color of plaster. He felt black threads beginning to emerge on his eyelids, slowly sewing his eyes shut forever. The mirror in the apartment was broken, but the creature hadn't vanished. They had switched places. Now Yasser is the thing that dwells in the mirrors, and the other entity is the one roaming free in the streets of Cairo.